well, welcome. We're doing a quick video on some old skeletons from Tomb King. This is for the release of the brand new Tomb Kings. You can use this tutorial for those skeletons. It doesn't really matter. I just did it as an ode to the old one. This is a miniature I got from a good buddy of mine. And very old school, nostalgic, that I'm sure that a lot of people will like. First off, I want to say thank you to all my YouTube members. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for all your donations and supporting the channel. You guys are awesome. But without further ado, let's go. The first thing you're going to do is obviously build your miniature, and then we're going to put some of this technical paint down for our base, and then spray it with Mechanicus standard gray. I obviously did this in one thing off camera. Now, since we are painting a skeleton, we're going to be using our base color of skeleton type paint, which is Morghast Bone, hence the bone name in Morghast Bone for skeletons. We're going to paint this all over our miniature. Now, there's not very many colors on this miniature, so the focal point is going to be the bones of this miniature, the face, the ribs, everything is going to be the focal points. They're going to be putting multiple layers of different paint onto this miniature. But first off, we're going to cover this entire thing in Morghast Bone, face, hands, legs, obviously all of the skeletal parts of our miniature. For the shaft of our skeleton spear, we're just going to use some Mournfang Brown. For the cloth part, attaching our spearhead to our spear shaft, we're going to use some Karak Stone. Some Leadbelcher for our spearhead. Pretty easy so far, so good. We're already almost done with the base colors. That's how quick and easy this thing is. Now, there's no specific color. I just did this because I saw some art that I liked on these miniatures. So I'm going with the Doombull Blue for the blue portions of our headdress on our skeleton, little pharaoh-like skeleton. And for the last part of the base painting on this miniature, again, there's not a whole lot on this miniature. We're going to use some Retributor Armor on the skull, the rim of our helmet type thing, and there's some raised areas in the blue that we're going to paint as well. Now, there's one color to use on the whole thing, Agrax Earthshade. We want this to look old, decrepit, ancient, whatever term you want to use on this miniature. I use this on the wood, the stone, and the spearhead as well. For the base paint on our miniature, now they're pharaoh type miniatures, so we want to be like in the sand, like the pharaohs were. So we're going to use some Tallarn Sand on the part. Now, you can do the rim of the base as well if you want. Just like that, we're 2/3 the way done, and we're moving on to the highlights. Now, this is the bread and butter. I hate that term, but it is what it is for this miniature. This is what's going to make the miniature look fantastic. So take your time. Don't overload your paint on your paintbrush. Go back frequently to your well or to your wet palette, whatever you're using. Make sure your paint is thin. Take your time on this. We're going to be doing some edge highlighting on the pelvic area, obviously on our rib area as well. Fingers, kneecaps, toesies, top of the head, and the face as well. You're going to paint the faces like you would normally paint the faces. Cheekbones, the chin, underneath the nose, the ridge of the nose area, and the teeth as well. So again, take your time on this. Don't rush it. You can rush the base part, painting part, but take your time on this to really get all of the colors in, because we're doing 3 different types of colors. Once you're satisfied with the Morghast Bone, we're going to move on to some Ushabti Bone, and this is going to start building up our highlights of our colors. So again, we're going over the same areas, and when you're focusing on that pelvic area and the ribs, you just want to do an edge highlighting. Don't do too much. Leave some of that Morghast Bone in there, and we're building up the colors over time. So in this instance, you don't want to paint the entire thing. You probably want to do about 75% of the surface area that you're painting, building up those highlights to give it that duration of different colors. Make it look real nice. For our second to last color, we're using some Screaming Skull. Again, don't overload the paint on your paintbrush. I can't stress that enough, and make sure your paint is thin. You do not want a lot on there. If I feel like there's too much paint in the paintbrush, I either put it on my hand so I got a nice straight line, or I use my thumbnail to put on there to make sure I got a nice thin line on my paintbrush. Again, building up on the highlights, same areas, doing edge highlighting on the pelvic area, the ribs, the fingers, and also the femur bones. That is going to be also your other focal point, and just creating that nice variant of dark bone color with the Morghast Bone to now the Screaming Skull over where we're at now, with one final highlight left to go. With your skeleton already looking amazing, we're going to use just some very sporadic white onto this miniature. Now again, do not overload your brush. Make sure you are very, very light on this color, because white is super overpowering. So again, don't put very much on your brush. Very light, easy strokes. Make sure you're just barely hitting the areas you want to hit, and you don't go over the entire thing. Very small selective areas, the tops of the pelvic bones, some of the ribs, the face, the teeth obviously, fingers, cheekbones, a little bit on the kneecaps as well. Again, very sparingly, just take your time on this. Don't go overboard with the white, because it will make it look too white. With just a couple more highlights to do, we're going to paint some of the Gehenna's gold on the gold area of our miniature, just to kind of brighten up just a little bit. For our blue headdress, we're going to use some of this specific blue. You don't need to exactly do this. I just thought this was a light pharaoh-like type of blue. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try. For our shaft of our spear, you can do a Mournfang Brown and then a Doombull Brown if you want. It's up to you, but the end color is going to be Doombull Brown. For the wraps on the spear, we're going to do reapplication of Karak Stone, followed by a dry brush of Necron compound on the spear head. And you'll see the hair when I was editing this video was bugging the living bejesus out of me. To highlight up our sand area, we're going to use some Krieg Kahki. And again, this is just a dry brush onto that area before we do our wash and then paint the rim of the base really quick. Quick wash, don't overload it onto the base of some Agrax Earthshade. Could have done this step a lot sooner. I messed that up. That's my fault. I apologize. But don't overload your brush. Don't get too much on there. And for the rim of the base, which is your favorite part of painting this miniature, because it means we're done, Tallarn Sand. Keep it with the sand colors. Well, I'm sure yours turned out just as good, if not better than mine. Pretty fantastic job. Not too hard. I would say a medium difficulty, but mostly because of the bone area. But it turned out fantastic. Now you just got 300 or more of these to paint, so no big deal. I want to say thank you for watching this episode, being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Support the channel if you can. Everyone that does, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. You're the reason I do it. Let's keep this channel growing. I love you all, and I will see you on the next one. Paint on.